Yeah, just in case you didn't already figure this out, I don't work on the weekends, so that's why I don't upload videos on the weekend, unless it's a special circumstance. So this sim is called Paradise Dreams. Not to be confused with Paradise Isles, which I've already documented. So let's just get the bird's eye view first. Looks like there's something up in the sky here. It's going to be a little bit irritating because I tend to zoom out a lot and I can only go so high before I hit those. So yeah, it looks like there's a lot here. That's cool. Let's do the basic info. Skyly Mocha. Yeah, once again, zero traffic, so whether or not that's accurate is yet to be seen. Looks about 10,000 objects out of 45,000 are being used, so that's fairly well developed. In case you haven't noticed already from watching my other videos, duck ponds are like super popular. I have to add that to my syndrome list along with schooners and lighthouses. And rightly so, because you know duck ponds are kinda nice. Yeah, so since there's so many objects on this land, it's gonna take a while for everything to load. And then I should be able to get a decent frame rate, but until then, it's gonna be a bit choppy. We'll take a look at what's going on up here first. I think that's kind of my standard procedure. So looks like a house building in progress, maybe. There's a texture board thing. These things can help you preview textures and also just get a quick fix on a texture if you're looking for something specific. You'll usually find those in sandboxes. And there's a whole bunch of scripts here. That's cool. I like this arrangement. It's kind of neat, like the idea that scripts are physical little boxes on a shelf. I'm getting like 1 frame per second. So it looks like this is just kind of a temp building space for the sim owner, where they kind of like experiment with stuff. Good, so this is more or less loaded, so I'm finally getting a decent frame rate. Looks like an angel. Yeah. Alright, so this looks really familiar. I saw this cabin now in 3 sims, I think, so I'm not gonna bother to go through it all again. I've already documented this particular cabin really well. Just kind of gives you an idea of this sort of creator's economy in virtual worlds. The fact that there are certain structures that for whatever reason are really popular and so they catch on. Like this, for example. This is, I think, the 3rd time I've seen this on a sim too. Basically, it must be a really popular construct because people are, or lots of people are buying these apparently and putting them on their property. So yeah, this is another kind of nature lover sim. A lot of there's a nice little grotto here. I think I've seen this too. Maybe it's part of like a package deal, like you get a waterfall cave and an elf tree house and all that all together as one package. This is weird. Oh, it's like a hot tub, but it's got like really weird hearts coming out of it. Those tasty tropical drinks and cookies, towels for everyone. Lots of attachment points. So yeah, that's kind of cool. These wave effects are nice. Or at least they would be if I was getting more than 2 frames per second. It's just loading all the textures and geometry over here, that's why it's so slow. Yeah, so this is probably just a sculpt map with a texture that goes over it to give a sort of simulated sea foam effect. And it works quite well if you ask me. Little beach hangout spot. There's the other house on the property. I haven't seen this one before. This looks, this is probably the main hangout spot, I'm guessing. It's kind of a pattern I've noticed, like usually on the more well-developed sims, and maybe this is sort of like a real-world meme that is being applied to virtual worlds. Like the sim owner will have a nice clock. Will have like a main headquarters, and then they'll have sort of like a little chateau or a little second house, which is a kind of like characteristic of affluent people in the real world. They'll have like several houses, and like a lot of the times they'll have a vacation house somewhere, you know, really nice that they can go to, like a little summer cottage or whatever. So basically, my opinion is that sim owners are trying to replicate that condition. Pretty standard kitchen, a little bit higher quality than normal. Those chocolate dipped strawberries are well detailed. Yeah, each new area that I go to, I have all these textures and geometry that has to load, so it slows down a bit. This is one thing I absolutely love about virtual worlds, is the total disregard and lack of respect for any kind of copyrights whatsoever. Like, look at this, all these like brand names, like right out in the open. The creators just like flagrantly completely replicate objects in the real world, and of course the intellectual property holders, they don't get a cent from that, and rightly so, because these are not real objects. But obviously, if like Coca-Cola, for example, or General Mills had their way, they would probably be milking money out of the creators. But basically, since virtual worlds are kind of nascent and there isn't really any effective way to track content in virtual worlds, well, I mean there is, but it's not really highly developed enough for commercial entities to be exploiting it. Basically, you can get away with almost anything in a virtual world. I mean, you pretty much, for intellectual property, you rely completely on users to basically narc on their buddies, or ex-buddies, as the case may be. So yeah, this looks like the baby room or whatever. It's actually quite common for people to have like virtual kids in virtual worlds, which I find kind of interesting. Like, in fact, it wasn't too long ago I was having a conversation with somebody who they couldn't have a child in real life because they were barren, I think, and so they were basically raising a baby in a virtual world, which I found pretty interesting. For some reason my body isn't fully loading. A neighing horse, that's cool. So yeah, more static horses. I don't really see why people bother with static animals until there's a system to animate. God, I'm getting seasick. Just trying to get behind this waterfall. Guess there's nothing back there for once. Yeah, until like animals can be animated, I really think they don't really add a lot to virtual worlds. Because I mean, look at how detailed and cool these are, and yet they just kind of like stand there like they're stuffed animals and like taxidermy, and it just kind of ruins the effect, especially when so much of the virtual world is moving. I like this waterfall rock thing. This is pretty gorgeous in its own sort of low res, low definition way. Waterfalls are really popular, obviously. And I'm beginning to see another trend. The weeping willow is probably one of, if not the most popular trees I've seen. Weeping willows and palm trees, those will be the two front runners, I think. So yeah, once again, this seems pretty straightforward. Basically just a sort of little personal paradise for people to come and hang out in sort of gorgeous virtual environments. But you have to wonder, at least I have to wonder, how often people actually, or I should say how much time people actually spend on their virtual property. Like, I mean, it's not often that you res on a sim and there's like people hanging out in their little virtual environments. So it's kind of like curious. I mean, just the usage I find intriguing. Oh, so here this waterfall actually has a little grotto behind it, which I've seen before. In fact, I might have mentioned it before. But yeah, like, how much usage do people actually get out of all these little nooks and crannies and hangout spots? So yeah, that's basically Paradise Dreams. So it really is kind of a little miniature paradise, you know, as advertised for once. So yeah, that's that.